Hi guys, it's Colette. Welcome back to my channel, and this is a book review of The Truth Inside, Lessons from My Daughter in the Afterlife by Ali Norell. And I did really like this book, but I felt I went into it with the wrong idea, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. Let's see what it says. A powerful story of bereavement and how a mother finds purpose through afterlife communication. In July 2014, Ali Norell's daughter, Romy, died aged 4 months. As a spiritual medium, Ali found her belief system to be challenged in the strongest way possible. The Truth Inside offers a deeply moving and at times surprisingly uplifting account of this experience and explores the possibility that we choose our path in life, even one that includes heartbreak and tragedy, in order to learn at the highest level. This story documents how Ali received communication from her daughter in spirit in a variety of ways, and how this eventually helped her to process her grief and uncover her own life purpose. And Ali Norell is a bereaved mother, and this is her story, but is also a healer, inspirational speaker, and spiritual medium. Now, I love this little book. Don't get me wrong, I will go into the things I adored about it, but if you're going into it thinking it's a book about communications from Ali's daughter in spirit, that is certainly there, but it's not too much further on in the book. And if you're expecting something like The Afterlife Billy Fingers or whatever, where the communications are almost from the chapter, the get-go, then you'll find yourself like going through the book. And I started that way, and it was because it actually was lessons from my daughter in the afterlife. The lessons from her daughter actually start way before her daughter's even born, and that's the intriguing part of the book for me, although the messages from Spirit and her daughter are wonderful. But you get a lot of memoirs where the person's not been very spiritual, or they've not seen themselves as spiritual, and they have a bereavement, and then everything changes and they pursue things and they find everything they need to do. Now, Ali was already on her spiritual path in a very good way before her daughter came to her and her daughter passed into spirit. And that part of the story is fascinating to me, how she, went into various things, looked at different things, tried to find out who she was, and also in that time recognising and putting things in place that would actually help her for when her daughter moved on into the afterlife, and only in retrospect being able to see that. So there's a whole build-up of the story that you can see she's going to return to, the people she had in her life, the people she got rid of out of her life, the people who were there, and the place that she was meant to be. All these things are in the first half of the book, and it's really good. The passing of the little girl left me distraught, but it also gave me a lot of hope, because you hear a lot of passings that are very traumatic, and they're not handled in a way that we would hope. But Romy's passing and the hospital staff and whatever were very kind and very professional. So we got to see, in a dreadful time, the beauty of human spirit supporting a couple losing their child. And that was good to see as well, because we hear so many horror stories, and this, if anything, shows the NHS staff to be very compassionate in this circumstance, which is wonderful to see. And then we start to see what happens afterwards. We see the traditional loss of meaning that tends to come for anyone in any situation after a bereavement, and the book moves on, and then we get communications from the daughter in things that, in ways that, some people would say, oh, that was just, that's not proof But to a mother who knows her child, yes, they are proof. They're very much proof. So that part of the book was fantastic as well. My problem with it was I was waiting for it coming earlier on in the book, if you see what I mean. So I was almost like keep going for that. And possibly if it hadn't have, it could have been my own brain. I'm working on my own book on the afterlife at the moment, so maybe I was just desperate to see what other people, see what this lovely author was going to say from her point of view as a mother that's lost a child. So maybe I wanted it to hurry along a wee bit, and I've gone back and I've read the first bit again, well, most of it again, and I actually really enjoyed it because I didn't put myself into a waiting situation. So as a book, it's really, really good, and it's wonderful, and it explains so well the synchronicities in life, and also, you know, it explains in good terms the understanding of how we have the soul contracts with the people before we come down, so that we can execute this way of finding ourselves, and that's part of the first part of the book as well. So in my second reading of it, I actually enjoyed it far better because I felt I wasn't rushing to get to the messages part. And it's because, again, a lot of the things I've read, that the messages maybe start from chapter 2 or 3 or right away. Not that I've done much reading on it, but you know what I mean. So The Truth Inside, Lessons from My Daughter in the Afterlife. And remember, I will say that those lessons were actually coming before the little girl was even born. And work that one out, but to me they were. The child was already setting up how she would come into the world, who would be there, and how she would exit it. And I found that part of it fascinating. In fact, probably I found that more fascinating, and the development of this lovely lady, I found that probably my favourite part of the book. So yeah, Gordon Smith hailed, who's UK's most accurate medium, it says, and I'll not doubt that, because I think he's fantastic. This book was sent from the heavens, that's what Gordon Smith says. So Ali Norell, your story had me in tears, but it had me uplifted, and it had me thinking on things, but also it had me nodding along. Yes. And yes, I have to say, for parents who've lost a child, there could be a lot of maybe triggering in this, in that section of it. But it is a wonderful affirmation of people's helpfulness, and also the way that this particular couple handled the passing of their child. But yeah, I was in tears, and my heart goes out to them. So thank you, Ali. Certainly enjoyed it. And I hope other people will go ahead and enjoy it too. This is by OBooks, and you can look at www.obooks.com, and I'm sure it'll be available almost anywhere, particularly online. So enjoy, and thank you again, Ali, and I hope you'll join me for more book reviews, because the more we can learn together, the more that we understand together, the closer we become. Bye now, many blessings.